It was a 9 a.m. short. I saw this setup forming here on the 1 minute chart, and I'm like, ooh, that looks nice. And here's the thing, I didn't get into it. And the reason is I wanted to see this candle close below this inversion here. And, figured maybe I could enter here. Still had a reasonable break-even point, which would have been this swing right here. And what didn't happen was just that. Instead, it closed way down here. And I was also looking at the 2 minute chart. And we have this 2 minute breaker. And I was sitting here thinking about it. And I obviously had about 4 minutes to sit there and kind of ponder it. But what I realized is this trade took this external liquidity, which is kind of a downgrade signal for me. As well, the weekly open isn't a level I typically play, but I play the midnight open. It's just not something that happens that often. And also, when this closed down in here and it was kind of consolidating, I saw it as potentially just being one more low in this low resistance, it's a high resistance liquidity run, one more low to be built up for 9 a.m. to push up once more for a sweep for sell side. That said, I chose obviously to not get into the trade. I missed it and I felt FOMO. And what we do with that emotion is what makes the difference. Because I legitimately was like, oh man, when they run to targets like this, that's when you feel them the most. If they start consolidating and messing around, it's one of those, it's different because you're like, I don't know, and you just kind of walk away and forget about it. But when after just a couple minutes, they run straight to your targets, you definitely feel something. And what you do with yourself at this moment is critical. As a trader, if you're struggling with emotions, if you're struggling with growing accounts, this is where the self-awareness comes into play. I had to kind of step away for a second. I went over to my trading journal and I just journaled it. And realizing that there will be another setup, there will be another play, that this wasn't 100% light bulb. If this was 100% light bulb, even then I would have a different issue with myself. But ultimately, this wasn't 100% light bulb. It was 90% light bulb, call it. So obviously I had my hesitations, and those hesitations caused me to miss the trade. But what I'm doing with that is I'm observing the emotion and dealing with the emotion. I'm not letting it dictate that now I think, oh, price is for sure moving and it's time to go. And here's a 1 minute fair value gap that will absolutely be a winner. And, it didn't close above, but who cares? Close enough. It's going to do it. Like, those are the two different mentalities that happens is the primal brain gets triggered and where do you go with it? And the more you do this, I think the more you become, skilled at it. And then it can become more subtle where maybe you're not flipping out over this 1 minute inversion long immediately, but maybe 20, 30 minutes later, you're starting to get a little antsy. You're like, I missed the setup and I need something. I need something to sink my teeth into. Well, what we have to do as professional traders is we have to observe the emotion, but follow the plan. And so, whereas the amateur trader, they act erratically and they deviate from the plan, whatever that could be. That could be getting in as this sells off and maybe you win and maybe you lose. It could be taking the very next inversion I see, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I turned to my journal. I journaled it a little bit. I calmed myself down, not even calmed, but, recentered myself, reminding myself that, the trade setups, they're like trains. You're sitting at the train station and they come every hour or whatever it is. The frequency to be determined, like there may not be another trade setup today, and I accepted that. This could have been the setup, and that's acceptable for me. I can wait till tomorrow. I can wait till lunch session, or there could be a setup with a 10 a.m. folder. I don't know. So I do have to accept that. I'm going to acknowledge that I've had a few more trades in the last 2 weeks that I liked, that I was hesitant on, that I were winners, and I need to observe that pattern. Is that pattern recurring enough that I need to do anything about it? I think I'm at 3 trades in the last week and a half that I hesitated that were winners. Maybe, maybe not. I need to evaluate all the trades and see if there's a pattern and go from there. But enough with that. That's a bummer. That happens. We got the open here in just about 30 seconds. So let's switch over to the 1 minute time frame. We have some interesting price action today. It is I was hoping to wake up to see better looking charts than I did this morning. That's not the case, so it's the hand that we're dealt, and gonna have to do something about it, or not, or just gonna have to deal with it. So sorry. So really, I think the 15-minute chart's kind of telling the story at the moment. We got 1 second till the open. Let's see what the opening candle does. Holy moly. All right, YM and ES are rallying. I like that it's clearing out this liquidity, but I want to see it sweep these London lows, really. There is SMT, it looks like. Looks like YM swept those London lows. We do have this 2-minute inversion. We have some equal highs up here at Asia. Swept out a 1-hour low. I'm gonna size this up and see where we would be. I would like it if it didn't take any of this right up in here, maybe. Now we also have YM and ES took London high, so there's SMT on both sides now. I also don't like how big this tail is on this candle, because what they can, even if it closes up in here, what it can sometimes do is just rip down for 50% of this before continuing up. We are trading into a 15-minute fair value gap. We do have a 10 a.m. red folder coming up. All right, so that candle swept that high. Kind of this massive 1-minute breaker inversion thing. So I accept the risk here on this trade. I think I like these equal highs up here at Asia. All right, zooming in here just a little bit. A little more risk than I was hoping for, but that's okay. So I'm going break even at these highs right there. Right here, want to go break even. Simply because my TP doesn't align very well with any break even. So, okay. I'm out of that trade. And then what I do is I front run it a little bit if I'm going to do that, because like it can miss the high and reverse against you. So I'm okay with that on this trade. All right, so that was a 9:32 1 minute breaker, IFVG, BE. What I don't want to be a part of is I don't want to be a part of any consolidation. If it was willing to expand violently, like it was here, I wanted to be in on that. If it was going to mess around, I didn't want to be in on that. So for me, if it wasn't going to sweep, if it wasn't going to go above here, then I'm cool with not being in a trade. So let's see here. Holy moly, look at that candle. Let's see how much movement we've already had. So that move up was 600 ticks. Here we are in the opening range gap. Did that just appear? So there's nothing here short-wise that I'm interested in. At least now. There was here, not now here. Could be interested in a short up at Asia's high. And or something down here at London low and 12 a.m. So we have a 60%, 62% chance that London low, 12 a.m. gets retraced to. So here we had SMT up at the highs. YM still looks bullish at the moment. ES looks, I don't know, a little bit bearish. So here's the first presented fair value gap. That green box. Yeah, that looks, ES looks bearish to me right there. At least on the 1 minute. I'm not zoomed out to the 15 minute. Ooh, the 15 minute's kind of ugly. So overnight we had all this high resistance liquidity run built up, which is why I was interested in shorts. Price came down, swept it out. It's retraced to 50% of London session. And what I was going to say was there is a 28% chance that price is going to sweep to 50% of the London session before continuation. So there's a 28% chance of that. There is a 60, I have to read my chart down there, 60% chance that once London high or low is swept, it goes for the other side. And then whether it continues or reverses is to be determined. But those are kind of the odds on average. And so what now? Well, For the moment, we have this 15-minute sell sign to balance, kind of holding price down. We have 5 minutes left on this 15-minute candle. I really like how it swept out this liquidity down in here. So for me, for longs, up to this Asia high, that was cool. I could do that. At the moment, I'm not sure there's anything to do. This is something we've been seeing a lot on NQ lately, is getting these kind of moves where price forms a large range on open. Let me get something like this. Forms a large range on open. Once it makes that range, then it just does this and messes around for a while. Does some super deep retraces, it's failing to distribute, and then eventually, maybe around 10 o'clock, does something like that. We have a 10 a.m. news coming up. So at this point, 9:40, just going to wait and see what the 10 a.m. news does. There's equal highs sitting right here, relative equal highs. There's technically an SMT down in here, but in this candle closed above this fair value gap. I'm not trusting any of this right now. I've seen NQ mess around too much lately. We don't really need the regular trading hours gap. Now the 15-minute looks like it's going to close in potential. It has the potential to close a nice looking inversion. So I'm cool with waiting. We'll see what happens here in a little bit. And one thing I thought that was on my mind today was remembering that the perspective is the risk, the fee. The perspective that your risk is the fee to get into the trade. If it happens to win, great. Otherwise, I accept that. I'm okay with that money leaving the account. And this is pre-framing, the words we speak hold weight and power. And it's helpful for me as I'm sitting here to talk through these things and remind myself, say them out loud until they become such a deep part of me that they don't need to be said. And at this point in my trading, where I'm trying to break through to the next level, so for me, I'm finally past the break-even stage. I'm in the next level of slightly profitable, and I'm trying to get to the next level of profitable. And for me, that's an important reminder too, is I made a whole video about that, and check it out if you haven't watched it already. It's been one of my most watched videos so far, where I talk about the different levels of trading. And we often think of it as binary, profitable, unprofitable. But there's so many more nuances to it, steps in between, levels in between, that can help you kind of accept and come to terms with where you're at, find some relief, remove some of the stress, the pressure, make you feel less like you're failing. Because it's not profitable or unprofitable. It's very unprofitable, right? Less unprofitable, break even. I don't know if you can see my fingers, break even, slightly profitable, and then profitable. And then of course, it just gets exponential beyond there because, the amount of money you can make is ridiculous. But I hope you see what I'm saying and recognizing the level you're at. Cause it can be easy to go, oh man, why can't this, I'm making a little bit here and there and that's okay, but it doesn't pay the bills, Well, when I put it in that framework, it helps me feel that I'm closer and I have to worry less. I have to stress less. I don't have to push it too hard. So if this stuff's helpful, a like would be appreciated, a subscribe would be appreciated. Love to have you along for the journey here. And I think, the real trap is so many traders are like, I just want that payout. I want the green month on my funded account, and they don't realize the power of being at a break-even level. Because the reality is, and this is not celebrated enough, a break-even month or break-even performance while executing at a high level, that is an incredibly positive sign. And it's just not, you're not making money, so you're not celebrating it. And I think that that's an unfortunate thing, that it doesn't get recognized as break even being a significant milestone in the trader's journey. But this is exactly what played out last week too. I took a long, a volatile long I took. It came up to my break-even zone, and then it came way past my stop loss, and then continued on. And what I said earlier in the stream was this wick kind of bugged me because it might want to come back and fill it, and look, it did. And I certainly couldn't have gotten into the trade with a stop loss way down here. And so therefore the compromise in this instance was respecting my normal risk, but going break even a little early. And been seeing this a lot lately too, where the initial inversion doesn't really play out, comes back down, super low retracement, super deep retracement, does something like this, and then it doesn't sweep this low. Maybe there's an SMT, and then forms another inversion that does eventually hit. And that's not something I take. All right, so those equal highs were swept. And what we're seeing here is a high resistance for opening. This is not what we want to see. We don't want to see price do this, whether it's bearish or bullish, after open. What we want to see is we want to see price open, manipulate, and distribute, or at least for me. I'm certain there's, I know there's traders that can trade in this. I can't. That stuff wrecks me. This is my bread and butter. And it hasn't been happening as much lately. Or even as cleanly, because here is a clear accumulation, manipulation, distribution, but on the lower time frame, it's high resistance, so it's not wanting to move. If we zoom out to like a 5 minute maybe, yeah, we can see accumulation, manipulation, possibly distribution. Here's this 5 minute inversion, and maybe it runs up for the Asia high like I was thinking. That's a 372 tick stop loss, $186 per contract. So, and then even then, if you would have taken it on that first 5 minute candle, you would have been stopped out. What's the news event that we got here? It's ISM services PMI. So not the biggest mover, but I think it might make a difference today. We can see YM is almost round tripping, and ES is just consolidating too. So I got a feeling that the price is holding up for this news event. Here on the 15-minute, we did close above this little inversion right there. Close back above the open. And we haven't retraced to midnight. So I'm noting that. And look at that 4-hour candle. Super bullish. Or 1 hour, excuse me. And so here on the 4-hour and the 1 hour, we're in ranges. And that's not cool. But even still, this 4-hour candle is quite bullish. I'd be surprised if it didn't want to sweep this Asia high right there. Still building liquidity below. You know, there's these lows here, these lows here. So it swept some, but not all of it. Which we can see, I had the drawing here. I kind of wanted to see these lows swept for a long. And there it goes, just chugging away, grinding up. What do we have? About 9 minutes until open. All right. So just waiting patiently. So we got a new day. Kind of the start. We started the month a couple days ago, pre-holidays. Oh, we're day after 4th of July. That can also be another reason why we're looking at some of these candlesticks that don't look so great, you know, when we're looking over here on the 1 hour. Where are we? Yeah, or let me bring you over here. So all these candles overnight, look at that. Just not looking very pretty. That's Friday. Overnight sold off. And then overnight here, not that pretty. All right, I'm paying attention over here because we're coming up close to that Asia high. Barely missed it by a couple ticks. There is this inversion that formed there, but I'm not interested in that. This here is an old new day opening gap. I want to see it push higher. Yeah, I want to see it push up and then see what the reaction is. YM's continuing to sell off. So right now they're not correlated. ES is in the middle, just still kind of consolidating, very similar to NQ. NQ I think has a little more strength than ES. And we're in range bound conditions, so I'm taking that into account. I don't want to take too many trades. I want to take light bulb only trades. I want to be clear about what I'm doing. And like this is much, look at this high resistance liquidity one, creating all these beautiful swings. And not that it can't take these, if it's short here, trades up into Asia high here in the next 5 minutes or so, and then trades back down. Like that's totally possible. It's just not as clean. Not, you can see there's not nearly as many swing points over a longer period of time. So Asia high's taken on the, well, not that high. What we want to see is these highs. I guess another reminder is just to let go of the expectation for today. Let go of the expectation for the outcome for today, the profit of from the P&L perspective. Let go of the expectation of your next trade or trades. You may or may not get a trade today. You may take a break even, you may take a loss, you may take a win. You may get your account to a certain level of profit, you may not. You can't have any expectations for today. The only expectation that I do have is that I perform well. And this is my Consistency Lab app that I'm building. That's a trading scorecard. And the only expectation that I have for myself is that I trade well. And I'm grading my performance I'm grading myself based off performance, not P&L. And this has been super helpful for me in terms of breaking my attention on the P&L, which can really, mess you up because it starts making you fearful. It starts making you greedy. Whereas here, my attention is solely focused on this. And despite the market conditions being a little bit more difficult, extremely volatile, I'm actually doing okay. And I'm not focusing on the P&L at all. I'm just looking here at this chart. And here's last month. I had one poor day. So I'm hoping to continue July like this. All right, let's check back in. We got what? 1 minute till the news event. And can't remember, I think PMI. I don't think it's a quick mover. I think with this folder, if I remember correctly, it kind of just meanders for a little bit and then starts accelerating. It's not like NFP or some of those other ones that'll just go boom, 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 like that. So let's see what happens here. I'd like to see it trade up first. Noting this fair value gap here. All right, so that 1 minute candle closed. We can see it didn't really, have too much volatility within it. But what I want to see now is I want to see the market start moving over the next 5 minutes or so. All right, so the 1 hour candle closed, kind of a compression candle. So here I'm not interested in this as a long, I'm just kind of watching it. And the thing I've been noticing, the pre-market trades, those are the ones that have been the nice trades. The last 2 weeks, anything between 8 and 9 o'clock has been pretty solid. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, whatever. So this is from Edgeful, the opening retracement from 9:30 to 4 p.m. So what we can see is if price opened above the midnight level, 57% of the time it retraced to it, 43% it did not retrace to it. And so that's kind of what we're looking at here is we were talking about that a little bit earlier. I just wanted to bring that statistic up because I think I said 63% or 62%, and that was if it opened below, not if it opened above. So I wanted to look that up for my own recollection as I start to memorize that, because we still have the midnight open down in here. And what I don't like is it's just building more trend line right in here. We just wait. Be patient. You know, another thought that I had is realizing how the mind positions the importance of the next trade. And I want you to think about, for you, what maybe weight you're putting onto the next trade. And it takes a little bit of digging to kind of uncover what this is. But for me, for example, you know, for a long time, I'd been attaching the security of my family to the next trade. And obviously not like completely, but as in, you know, oh, if I lose the next trade, my family's homeless or anything like that. But obviously if I lose the next trade and then the next and the next, and I'm not green, it all builds up this narrative of primal fear, and recognizing that, you know, there's a percentage of truth to that fear with every trade really kind of struck me. It showed me how it made my trading harder and how I made poor decisions. And this is a deep subconscious level, because at first, like consciously, you're just like, yeah, I don't want to lose any money. Who doesn't? And I think everybody thinks that for the most part. But when you dig deeper, like, what's the meaning for you? You know, does it relate to feelings of worthiness? If I don't win the next trade, I'm not a worthy human being. And for me, like, I really attached the next trade to my security and my family. And so I had to realize, you know, you have to reframe that. And I had to reframe that as, I am the provider of my family's security, their well-being. And also, of course, not even just me, but my wife and God too. And then once I thought about all that, it really took the weight off of needing the next trade to be a winner. It just is. It became more of a video game. And I was able to detach from my identity being in the next trade, and really finding a lot of ease in my trading since I've come to realize that. And I also made a video about that as well. Ooh-wee. All right, so we don't have tons of movement yet. I like that it's building some liquidity down in here. We have these swings. A little more localized as opposed to just this swing here. And these swings down here. Let's see. We just got to be patient. So my notes here on the chart, be ahead of it. It's just simply to remind myself, if I see a fair value gap form, like right down in here, you saw earlier, I was sizing up the position. Something just moved on my screen or screens, and I don't know what. As soon as I see a fair value gap form, whether it call it like this one right here, doesn't matter, any of them, and like we're down in here, just kind of already pre-deciding that if a candle closes above this, I'm already sized for my position, whatever size I think I need, and I'm ready to go. And to double check it twice, I just had a couple trades where I didn't check my risk or check my stop loss placement, and I kind of screwed myself. So just being sure to double check, like, oh, right, my stop loss should be right here, or like wherever it was. If it's not right, get out of the trade. Double check my risk amount, because I had a trade last week or the week before where I got into the trade and I realized I didn't double check my risk, and I wasn't sure if it was like way higher than I thought. So I went break even on the trade, got tapped out of break even while I was checking my risk. The risk was actually fine. And then the trade went and ran to my targets without me. So just a couple of, I've had a lot of like small tactical errors in the last month or so. In addition to price action not being great, not the worst, but not great. So just constantly like looking like, oh, okay, so here's the 1 minute inversion. If it, inverts, and I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I want it to see this high swept. I want to see an inversion up in here. I'm thinking ahead up in here, and then I could be interested in something. Which, what time? We got 10:10. Where is it? 20. You can even just look here, like the New York reversal last week was 10:25, 9:25, 9:50. The week before, 10 a.m., 10:30, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We've had a lot of 10 o'clock reversals in the past couple weeks. And I like to track things like that because you can kind of get a sense of the ebb and flow of the markets, because they move in cycles. And for a while, you'll see that the New York, London pre-markets providing nice setups, and then it's not. All right, so I want to see this candle trade up. I'd love to see a gap right there. Just kind of pre-planning ahead. If not, what else do we have? We do have a 2 minute I could potentially use here. And so for now, I'm going to size based off of if this candle sinks below here. So we have buy side is swept. Looks like we're forming SMTs. We're trading into a bunch of weekly resistance. We're in between weekly levels. And I mean, that's why we're consolidating. These weekly volume imbalances, this rejection block on this weekly. All right. So just kind of wait and seeing what happens here. We have a minute left on this 15-minute candle. It's a super bullish candle. So far, not getting any reaction to the Asia high. Probably not coming back down for this. Probably. So what else do we got? Anything else up there? There's a 1 hour high. Let's see. 4 hour high. So now, there's nothing up in here I'm really that interested in. This gap's kind of nice, but it's pretty far away. We'll see. We shall see. It is 10:20 New York. Here we go. Which it makes sense to some extent. Price is at equilibrium of the daily range. Where are we at? So here we're kind of in this range in the daily, and we're equilibrium right there. We're also equilibrium of this larger range, and it's not often I draw whatever this pattern is, a pennant, I guess. But when price starts doing that, I draw these patterns to remind myself what kind of environment I'm trading in. There's lots of targets towards sell side. We have this 930 wick. We have this high resistance liquidity to target. And then 12 a.m. London low. My chart's taking forever to load. Hello? All right, still just trying, just working on being patient. So just kind of consolidating here. Oops. I'm just noticing there is a 30-second right there, a 30-second inversion. Hmm. What do we got? 2 minutes, 30 seconds left on this 15-minute candle. So this 30-second just did a sweep down in here, kind of building some trend line up in here. I like that I could get in much earlier than wherever that 2-minute was. Because then even if I'm wrong, I likely have a better break even. But it's just more consolidating a little bit right there. I like that we have these relative equal lows right down in here. It's just going to go, isn't it? So here it swept this low. I don't like that. There's a breaker inversion right in here. So this isn't A plus. I like it when NQ sweeps the liquidity. I feel like it wants to come up with this liquidity up in here. I feel like it wants to come up in here. And so I want to wait to see more. I'm okay with missing it right now, I think. At least I say that now. Or I guess I could have left my short position on the chart. I was thinking this, something like that. So we're just building liquidity on both sides right now. Got these lows here, these highs here. Just still kind of waiting for something to become a little clearer. You know, I liked the idea of a 30-second. And even now here with this, a strong push up would be amazing. And now we've built 3 swing points down in there. So here that idea would have been stopped out. And I'd love to see a 1-minute gap form. And we'll give it a little bit more time. So really, sweeping these highs haven't really formed anything that would be a nice inversion to come back down. So let's see what we got. A little 30-second inversion, but it's little. I'm liking shorts more and more, but I'm just not seeing anything clean to engage with. Five minutes kind of consolidating. All right, let's, I want to go back to this here. And really the latest we've seen it has been 1020. So 1030 here is pushing late for the reversal if it is it. If not, then it's just going to keep grinding up probably. Give it a few more minutes. One or two more candles, see what happens. And really, the fact that it hasn't reacted from Asia high already, like, definitely reduces my interest. Like, I like that it's building the liquidity, it's engineering liquidity to target, but I don't like that it didn't respond to Asia high. And I don't really have any other levels, I think. This old New Day opening gap, but yeah. All right, pretty much just seeing consolidation here. I'm looking around for any reason to stick around. Swept those equal lows. This is kind of engineering more liquidity up in here, though. So that's probably it for me today. I missed the trade, and that was pre-market, and I already talked about that at the beginning of the stream. So a little bit, that was the trade, and a little bit bummed about that. And then I did take this long break even, which was a good thing, and it was just super high resistance. It didn't really want to move like it's been doing a lot lately here at open. But it is Monday after a holiday weekend, so I had lower expectations. I'm not here to try to push it too hard today. I took my shot, and break evens on the day is fine too. That has to happen sometimes. It's been happening more frequently lately than I would care for, but that's the market in a different mode. It's variance within the market. So I'm not seeing anything here for me in terms of a short. It's getting a little late in the session for what I would expect. For me, I think that's a little later than I want to wait. It'd be one thing to trust an 11 o'clock reversal if price was looking super nice. It's just not. We're just consolidating upwards here in this 2 minutes, so watch, I'll log off and it'll become obvious and beautiful, and I'll have walked away. I shouldn't speak that out loud, should I? Because what you speak is what you create into existence. So yeah, not the most exciting day. Just not a lot of movement in the market. Well, I say that, and we've moved 1,100 ticks, 275 points, which for last year would have been a big move, but for this year, that's not much. And it's just not sure what it wants to do. It's not sure how it wants to react to this level. There's an inversion and a breaker right here. It's building liquidity here. It's building this trend line here again. Right there. But yeah, I'm calling it. So I'll catch y'all